One of the most anticipated pieces of evidence in the FTX trial was an audio recording obtained by federal prosecutors in which Caroline Ellison, CEO of the trading firm Alameda Research and girlfriend of FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, spilled the beans to her employees about how FTX and Alameda executives had propped up Alameda using FTX customer deposits.
Yeah, so I guess you guys have probably seen a lot of what's happening on, I don't know, Slack and Twitter, but I could just start by giving a general overview of the situation.
The tape was played for the jury on Thursday and was obtained by a Business Insider journalist over the weekend. The journalist uploaded the full recording to SoundCloud. In this video, we'll comment on just a few snippets of the recording. The entire recording is 57 minutes long, and it's linked in the description below. First, some context. At the time this meeting took place, FTX thought they were going to be rescued by Binance. They did not yet know that the Binance deal would fall through and that they would be declaring bankruptcy just 2 days after this meeting. Alameda's financial troubles were the reason FTX had raided customer funds in the first place. SBF hopes to use Binance's buyout money to replace the shortfall in customer funds, finish paying off Alameda's debts, and shut Alameda down. In a message that was shown to the court, SBF asked Ellison to simply tell Alameda employees that Alameda would be shutting down and that it would be appreciated if they stuck around until things wound down. SBF's lawyers say that Ellison went far beyond what SBF intended. On November 8, Binance announced they would buy FTX. This meeting took place the next day, on November 9. Ellison called an all-hands meeting of Alameda employees. There were about 30 employees in total. 15 were present in person, and the rest tuned in remotely. Ellison began by explaining how the crypto crash led to Alameda having insufficient funds to pay its loans and how they wound up taking funds from FTX customer deposits.
I think the basic story here is that starting last year, Alameda was kind of borrowing a bunch of money via open-term loans and used that to make various illiquid investments. So a bunch of FTX and FTX US equity, a bunch of other ventures, investments, etc. And then with crypto being down, the crash, the credit crunch this year, most of Alameda's loans got called, and in order to meet those loan recalls, we ended up borrowing a bunch of funds on FTX, which led to FTX having a shortfall in user funds. And so with the once there started being fun about this, and users started withdrawing funds, they kind of eventually were realizing that they were not going to be able to meet the continued withdrawal pressure.
She then explains how FTX wound up in acquisition talks with their chief rival Binance and its CEO Changpeng Zhao, who is referred to as CZ.
And so reached out to various people, but ultimately Binance. Ultimately, Binance and CZ was the one who came through with an offer to acquire FTX.
Later, Ellison explains that Alameda will probably be winding down, which was the core message SBF had asked her to communicate.
And I think my current default plan is that Alameda will likely wind down once we can repay all of our creditors and sort of wind down a bunch of our whatever remaining obligations we have. Yeah, totally definitely no pressure for anyone to stick around. Totally understood if you're just I'll be here, I'll be working on, I think, basically just making sure that all of our creditors get made whole and kind of doing whatever we can do, though it's somewhat out of our control, to make sure all the FTX customers get made whole and don't end up losing their deposits. And yeah, I think there is a bunch of, work to do there. So definitely appreciate it if anyone does want to help out.
An employee asked her how big the financial hole was, that is, how big is the shortfall in user funds. Ellison is hesitant to say, but reveals that it is in billions of dollars. Eventually, the public would find out that it was just shy of $9 billion.
Can you say how big the hole is? Or like...
I probably don't want to share the exact number, sure. But it's...
Is it closer to like 1 bill or 6 bill?
The latter.
An employee asks how likely it is that the deal with Binance and CZ will go through.
Do we have an idea of how likely it is that the deal with CZ will go through?
I don't really know. I said 70% earlier, but my parents said 40%. If anyone else has estimates, I'll take them. Yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't know. By default, I sort of like expect CZ to like behave in very like whatever zero sum, just like try and fuck us over ways. So like whatever, make me a sign this deal, and then that's like whatever with an exclusivity clause, and then.
In the next clip, an employee asks if there was ever any other plan to replace FTX user money, and Ellison reveals that they had initially planned to raise the money, but this was unsuccessful in the climate after the crypto crash.
Was there like a plan to eventually like pay this? Suppose this didn't happen, right? Like, was there in the roadmap of like, oh, when are we going to actually like try to like pay this back and like make FTX like users not fucked if this didn't happen? Or like was this like a whatever?
I think basically FTX was trying to raise in order to do this, but yeah, after the crash, no one wanted to invest, and I don't know. I guess there's like a question of like, should you try raising like a big like a at a steeply like discounted valuation, or would that just make people freak out more or something? I don't know. Obviously, in retrospect, the plan of wait around for several months and like for the market environment to get better and then raise did not work out.
Next is a clip where an employee asks what kind of legal consequences could come out of this. Ellison says it depends on whether or not the Binance deal goes through. Then there's an inaudible question, and she encourages employees to talk to their own legal counsel.
What type of legal stuff is going to like come out of this? I imagine like, there's several people in this very place, like potentially yourself, which I hope wasn't the case, but I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have a very good detailed answer right now. There's like, we've hired a bunch of lawyers to start working on it. So, I mean, I think the overall answer is like something like, I don't know, if the Binance deal goes through and all users get paid back, then there won't really be like that many people with like grievances or something. If that doesn't happen, there will be like more people with grievances.
With like a selfish question, would we be at risk from the legal standpoint? Like we didn't know what was going on, but
I don't know if I feel like comfortable taking a strong stance on that or something. Feel free to talk to your own counsel or something.
An employee asks what illiquid investments were made. That is, the illiquid investments she described before that she said Alameda had spent much of its money on.
What were the biggest illiquid investments that we made? I know that if you answer this question, it's going to give us an idea of what the rule is, but...
I think like FTX equity, there was like the FTX equity that we bought back from Binance, and then also...
That was 2.1 bill, right?
Yeah, and then also some other FTX equity that was like another billion or something maybe. And then, yeah, GDA, which is this mining company, Anthropic, which is an AI lab, K5, which is like people who talk to celebrities.
How much
like
of those cost?
GDA is $1 billion, Anthropic is 500, K5 is 300, I think.
Voyager, BlockFi as well.
BlockFi was like almost nothing.
Voyager.
Oh yeah, Voyager was like probably 100 or 200.
Here, an employee asks if Ellison knew how the balance sheet got leaked. Recall that the run on withdrawals was triggered by a balance sheet which showed that much of Alameda's assets were in FTX's made-up token, FTT. Ellison mentions that Sam thinks it was the Binance CEO, CZ.
Do we know how our balance sheet got leaked or?
It's sort of like Sam thinks it was like CZ. I don't know how CZ got it, but I mean, we sent it to like a bunch of people, so if anything, it's like maybe surprising that our balance sheet didn't get leaked before that.
An employee asks Ellison if she was aware of all the issues of the use of FTX customer funds and the run on withdrawals.
At what moment were you aware that like this was going to be an issue? Like
that the like FTX whatever user deposit thing, or like the more recent, or like the actually being like a run on FTX.
All the above. I'm sure there are different timelines, so you became aware of each thing, but like you know, I'm interested in all the answers.
Ellison gives a long, rambling answer that we won't play in full. The key part is the employee's follow-up question, where he asks about who else knew what was going on. And here, Ellison specifically names Bankman-Fried, Nishad Singh, and Gary Wang. Ellison, Singh, and Wang would all end up pleading guilty and cooperating with the prosecution.
Who else was like aware of this? I mean, I'm guessing you and Sam certainly were, but like I'm guessing there's probably very few people.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I know exactly who was aware. I mean, I sort of feel like to some extent you could piece it together if you like looked at like Pointer or like looked at like some spreadsheets for a bit or something. So it was like sort of possible for a lot of people to be aware of it, but I guess that most people weren't. So.
I mean, like more like explicitly aware, as in like told like this is what we're doing. Like, in terms of like meetings that were had, I'm sure like this wasn't just a YOLO thing, right? Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I talked about it with like Sam, Nishad, and Gary, I think.
This part is a bit inaudible, but an employee asks whose decision it was to use FTX customer deposits to pay off Alameda's debt. This is another crucial part of the recording. Ellison specifically identifies Sam as the culprit.
So, who made the decision on using user deposits?
Sam, I guess.
During the trial, Ellison explained that the "I guess" was a vocal tic, and that she definitely meant to identify Sam. There's an inaudible question here, but Ellison clearly responds to the questioner by saying that FTX had always allowed Alameda to borrow user funds. This is a big deal because using customer deposits for investments was not legal.
And like, when was it first?
I think like FTX like basically always allowed Alameda to like borrow user funds. As far as I know. Yeah.
Someone later also asks if Alameda had to post collateral to borrow those user funds.
Did we have to post any collateral for those?
No, though we did most of the time in practice, I think, just because we had a lot of, FTT on the exchange, for instance, and various other things.
funds. Ellison also later admits that Alameda is allowed to have a negative balance on FTX.
Did Alameda have the ability to touch user funds without getting approval from FTX each time?
Yeah, I mean, I think basically the structure was that like Alameda could like kind of go negative in coins without needing to actually borrow them on the spot margin.
So those are just a handful of clips from the full audio. Several Alameda employees resigned soon after this meeting. In Michael Lewis's book on the FTX scandal, Going Infinite, he mentions how after this meeting, Ellison brightly said to a female employee, "If you want to stay and help, I'd really appreciate it," and the woman simply replied, "F you." The meeting was secretly recorded by an employee called Rick Bess, a trader who had been working at Alameda for just 3 days. He gave a copy of the recording to another employee, Christian Drapi, who had been working at Alameda for almost a year and a half. It was Christian Drapi who provided the tape to prosecutors. Drapi testified during the trial that during the meeting, Ellison was sitting on a beanbag chair and had a sunken, kind of slouching appearance and did not display confident body language. Ellison later testified that she had revealed all this information because, with everything falling apart, she was relieved to finally tell her staff the truth. But SBF's lawyers said that this wasn't some sober unburdening, because she had been laughing while giving answers. However, Drapi said that Ellison was prone to nervous laughter. Ellison did, however, claim that the meeting had been fun. It's not clear if this was nervous sarcasm or if she meant it.
Thank you for answering all these. Like, I'm sure this is not that fun for you, but I'd certainly appreciate how open you're being.
Yep.
Thanks. I mean, it was kind of fun. I don't know. I like that.
Oh, okay. Then never mind.
The tape eventually became one of the key pieces of evidence for the prosecution for reasons that are obvious. It must have been an unfortunate blow for the other members of SBF's inner circle, who at the time were busy quietly trying to figure out how to avoid being implicated in wrongdoing. For example, according to Michael Lewis's book, Sam was dancing around providing answers of what exactly had happened to the money and trying to blame some of it on hackers and the rest on accounting errors, while Nishad Singh met with Sam to ask how they would make sure they all said each other was innocent. In the meantime, to borrow Michael Lewis's words, Ellison happily made the case for her guilt. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. If you want to check out Michael Lewis's book on the FTX scandal, Going Infinite, there's a link in the description below. And if you want to learn more about Caroline Ellison, you can check out our full-length video profile about her.